Hello everybody, this is Mrs. Snook with section 5.5. And 5.5 gives us a third form that we can use for writing the graphs of equations. And this one is called standard form. And so our objective today is we're going to graph linear equations using intercepts, and we're going to write linear equations in standard form. So first up, the definition. Well, I mentioned intercepts a moment ago, and we know about the y-intercept. That's where if you're graphing a line, it crosses the y-axis at the y-intercept. And we know that that's at the point 0, b. There is also an x-intercept. And this is where the graph crosses the x-axis. And standard form is really nice because from standard form we can very easily get the x and the y intercepts. Standard form looks like this: ax plus by equals c. And a, b, and c are all real numbers. So for instance, if I was to give you 5x plus 3y equals 75, that's standard form. We have x's and y's on the same side, and we don't have any fractions, and then we just have the number on the right. So that's what standard form looks like. So let's find the x and y intercepts for equations in standard form. Our first one is 3x plus 4y equals 24. And if you recall, the x-intercept, that's where it crosses the x-axis, so therefore y equals 0. And then the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis, so x equals 0. So all I have to do to find the intercepts is I plug in 0. So for the x-intercept, I'm going to plug in 0 for y. So I have 3x plus 4 times 0 equals 24. That means that 4 times 0 drops out, so I get 3x equals 24, x equals 8. So then our x-intercept is at the point 8, 0. The y-intercept, start from the same equation, 3x plus 4y equals 24. But this time, I'm going to plug in 0 for the x. So 3 times 0 plus 4y equals 24. That 3 times 0 goes away. I get 4y equals 24, or y equals 6. So my x-intercept is at the point 0, 6. I'm sorry, I said x-intercept, y-intercept. So check it out. Very easily from the equations, I can get 2 points. That's going to be really useful in just a moment when we go to graph. Let's do another one just to make sure we've got this locked in. So what I would like you to do is pause the video right here, try to find the x and y intercepts on your own, and then start the video again and see if you did it right. Let's see, did you get it right? For the x-intercept, you plug in a 0 for y. So just remember y equals 0 when doing the x-intercept. That causes the 6y just to drop out. So I just crossed it out, and I got x equals 12, or the point 12, 0. Y-intercept, x equals 0 for that one. So then 5x drops out, and I got y equals -10, or the point 0, -10. Now we're going to graph our lines using the x and y intercepts. And I don't seem to have a ruler function here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in an x and y axis. I'm going to try to be as neat as I can. And I'm going to do the graph of x minus 2y equals -2. Now the thing I need for a graph is 2 points. And with our other forms, we would have one point and then use the slope to get us the other point. This form, let's use those x and y intercepts, just like we did a moment ago. So x minus 2y equals -2. I'm going to get the x-intercept, so plug in 0 for y. I get x equals -2. So I've got a point there at -2, 0. Now let's get the y-intercept. X minus 2y equals -2. Plug in a 0 for x. I get -2y equals -2, or y equals 1. So we have a point at 0, 1. There's my 2 points. Now all you got to do is draw your line. Done. Now pause the video here. What I want you to do is graph this on your own and then see how you did. So pause the video. If you did this right, you should have had an x-intercept at the point 10, 0 and a y-intercept at the point 0, 4. 1, 2, 3. So you'd have a point here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right there. And then carefully sketch in your line. And your graph should look something like that. Now, standard form is also great for graphing horizontal and vertical lines. These lines that you look at, x equals 3 and x equals -1, those are in standard form. So if you imagine 1x plus 0y equals 3, then our first equation, x equals 3, that's in standard form. And the same thing with x equals -1. So what we're going to do is put on our x and y axes. And for the line x equals 3, that means every point on that line, the x coordinate is 3. So I have a point right here. I have my intercept. And I don't have a y-intercept for this. But I do know that no matter what, x always equals 3. So I'm going to have a vertical line right here. So this is the line x equals 3. Now look at the line x equals -1. You're going to have an x-intercept at -1, and every point on that line has an x-coordinate of -1. So right here, going up and down, is your line x equals -1. Now let's play the same game with the y's. We have y equals 4 and y equals -3. I'm going to put in my axes. And you can think of it as 0x plus 1y equals 4. That gives me y equals 4, which is my first equation. And that also gives me my y-intercept. It's going to go through 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now every point on that line goes through 4. So I can just pick another point where y equals 4 and just put that one down just by random. And then graph my line. Here's the line y equals 4. Now at this point, I'm going to ask you to pause the video. I want you to try graphing y equals -3 on your own. So please pause the video, graph that line, and then compare. So did you get a line down here at -3 going side to side? If you did, good job. That's how it works. All right, next part, we're going to transform these equations into standard form. And so look at example 9. We have y equals 3/7 x plus 5. And I want to have only integers. So that means that that 7 in the denominator, I need to get rid of that. And I'm going to do that by multiplying both sides by 7. So when I do that, I get 7y equals 7 in the denominator cancels, so I get 3x. And then 5 times 7 is 35. So I just distributed that 7. And now I need to move this x. It's got to come over here because in standard form I have x and y on the same side. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. And when I do that, I get 7y minus 3x equals 35. Boom, that is done. If you wanted to, could you have written negative 3x plus 7y equals 35? And the answer is yes. Now, example number 10, we have y minus 2 equals negative 1/3 times x plus 6. Now, this is on point slope form. And I can convert that to standard form as well. First thing I want to do is make sure I don't have any fractions because I only want integers. And I see that 1/3. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. So on the left, distribute your 3. You get 3y minus 6. And then on the right, check this out. My 1/3 cancels with the 3. So I'm left with a negative 1. And I'm going to distribute that negative 1. So I get a negative x minus 6. Now, first thing I notice is I see a negative 6 on both sides. So what happens if I add 6 to both sides? I'm allowed to do that if I add the same thing to both sides. Well, those 6's both drop out. And I end up with 3y equals negative x. Now, I want the x and the y on the same side. So I'm going to add x to both sides. I get x plus 3y equals 0. And that's our standard form. Okay, now we have a story problem. And remember to do your 3 reads. First read is for the story. Second read is for what it's asking you to do. And the third read is for the numbers, the information. So, okay, first read. A media download store sells songs for $1 each and movies for $12 each. You have $60 to spend. Write and graph an equation that describes the items you can purchase. So my story is I'm downloading songs and movies from a store. The first place I could think of that does that is Amazon. There could be other places, but for me it's Amazon. And Amazon sells a song for $1 each and movies for $12 each. So now the second thing we want to do is look at the equation, look at the question. What does it want us to do? We need to write and graph an equation that's going to describe this purpose. So writing and graphing. And now our third read is the information we're looking for. I have a media download store that sells songs for $1. So I'm going to write that, and movies for $12, and I have $60 to spend. So now I need to write an equation, and I'm going to say X represents songs, Y is going to represent movies. I know I have $60 to spend, so I'm going to get so many songs, and I'm going to get so many movies. I'm going to spend so much on songs and so much on movies. A song is $1 each, so I'm going to put a coefficient of 1 there, whereas a movie is $12 each. So if I buy one movie, I'm spending $12, and if I buy 2 movies, that's $24. So that's why I use that as a coefficient. So now my equation is going to be x plus 12y equals 60. That's my equation in standard form. The next thing it wants me to do is to graph it. And I put myself some graph paper here for me to use. I'm going to put in my x and y intercepts. So x plus 12y equals 60, y equals 0, x equals 60. So if I don't buy any movies at all, I can get 60 songs with 0 movies. Now let's get our other intercept. X plus 12y equals 60. This time I'm not going to buy any songs. I'm just going to buy movies. So 12y equals 60 and y equals 5. So I have another point at 0, 5.